This is a video overview to help kind of explain some of the decisions that we've made around putting together our service portfolio within Marvel and how we currently classify data within the configuration management system in Marvel. So hopefully, as a result of this video, it will give you a better feel of what we're looking to achieve and what we kind of need out of you on your visit down here to Plymouth. So to start off with, let's talk about business services. So we hold all of our business services within the service portfolio within Marvel, and the way we've kind of structured that within the portfolio is a kind of two-tiered structure. So we have this concept of top-level services. So if I'm logging an incident in the product, we've configured the system so that all incidents are logged against the business services within the portfolio. So same rules apply for incidents, problems and requests for service. They will always be forced to put the business service that the user is having the issue with. So as I said, we've got this two-tiered approach. So when you first click on this cog here, it's probably the best way to demonstrate it. You'll see I think we've got about 35 so-called top-level services, and then under each of those there's a series of sub-services. So if we just take the example here of looking at our top level service of public services, then click on the cog again here, we can see for that one there's these 5 separate sub-services. These are all business services in their own right. They are separate entries within the portfolio, but this is their kind of top level bucket, if you like, public services. So I've got something like property alert in there. So we've got about 35 top level services and then about 150 of these individual business sub services. Again, all of that's held within the portfolio within Marvel. What we've also got within the service portfolio in Marvel is a list of about 120 so-called technical services. So these are completely different to our business services. What we tend to use the technical services for is to log changes within the system. So we've configured the system. So I'm now going into log a change record, and you'll see when we go into the service drop down here, there's a completely separate list of service offerings in here. So these are all of the technical services. So the rules of engagement are that our change builders, they raise changes against the technical service that they are working on. So it's very rare, because of the vastness of our infrastructure and all the interdependencies, that a change builder would actually be doing some work on a server that would say only impact one business service. So the way we've got around this is we've said that, right, changes should be logged against the technical service. So yeah, what the change builder sees when they go to log a change record, it's going to ask them to select the relevant technical service that they're making that change against. So I say that's how we've kind of dealt with the kind of different offerings within the service portfolio. So we've got rules in place. If it's an incident, problem or request for service, it's logged against the business service. If it's a change, it's logged against the technical service. So if we can just look to see how what we've actually done with regards to relating between business service and technical service. So if we just pick one of our services in here, we've picked the property alert service. Yeah, so we just pull up the portfolio entry for property alert. Load that into the main screen. Yeah, so what we've done for each of the business services, yeah, so the property alert, this is a business service. It's under our public services. If we go to the sub-services here, what we've done to give us a pictorial view of those kind of technical stacks or technical services, as we've termed them, to get an idea of which of those technical services underpin this business service, we've mapped those as sub-services. So these here show the technical services which are sub-services of this business service of property alert. Yeah, so what we've done for each of our business services is basically take it on a journey. So, how is that service access? What kind of security do the people accessing the service touch? What areas of the network do they touch? So these are all kind of technical stacks, if you like. Let's say by mapping that data in there, it does give us a very high level view of the technical stacks that make up that given business service. The issue we have, and why we're kind of asking you down here, is around the best way to actually use the tool to map this business service to technical stack, i.e. technical service, then down to underpinning config item. Because the way we've kind of set it up already, it's very messy to try and understand all of those different relationships. So if we just go into the config viewer here, and again, if we stick with property alert, you can kind of see the challenges we're facing here. So let's put property alert in there, and that's a service. So we're going into our service portfolio. Select that service here. So here we go. Here's the actual config viewer for this business service of property alert. And what the system's trying to show us is basically all of those, we scroll in, all of those technical services. We've got as sub-services, so that's all coming back on the diagram, as well as all of the direct links to configuration items in our configuration management system. So you see, it's very difficult for us to actually see. So if we're logging an incident against this service, that spoke diagram, it doesn't show us any layers of a relationship. It's it's quite difficult to decipher what's what, to be honest. So likewise, if we're actually in the system, so if I'm in here logging a change, again, rules of engagement for changes is we log them against the relevant technical service. But we also include the config item. So what we would look to do typically is to attach the relevant config item. So let's say I'm making a change to EH portal 4507. Yeah, so if I quickly find that config item, I must have not put that in right. Hold on, sorry, bear with me. So config item EH-portal 4507. There we go. So so this config item would be attached to the change. So if I was making a change to this particular config item, but then when you actually click on this config item, again, what we'd want to see straight away is which business services are. So from a change management point of view, the guys approving this change, they would quickly want to delve into the configuration management system, that diagrammatic view, to see straight away which business services could be impacted by this change. And again, this is where we're kind of really struggling to use the tool to its potential. So if you go into the config viewer here, obviously the first thing is it's quite a small view. We're looking at children here, so that's kind of, from our kind of way of thinking, that's going the wrong way. But we can click on the parents here, and again we've got this very small diagram here, which, as I say, it takes some delving around. You can actually see that config item is actually related back to the property alert service, but that's took quite a lot of work to get to that stage. But say where we want to be, we want to know the best way to use the tool, so that from a change perspective, when our change builders are logging a change against technical service, when they relate that config item, we want to be able to use the config viewer capability to see straight away what are the business services that could be impacted by this change. One of the faults I had was around looking at, so if I just go into this config item here, was to maybe taking away that layer of sub-technical services, because that kind of adds another layer into those config views. And I was thinking of mapping all of those values that we have as technical services. So if I just go into another tab here, if I just pull up all of those values again, so all of these values here, so we've got application, client, off the shelf, channel, corporate websites, all of these different values in the technical service here. I was thinking of maybe mapping those values there, so doing a direct correlation here between these values in here to the actual category dictionary, actually the category field within the configuration management system. At the moment, all of our config items are categorized by these kind of values that have kind of grown organically in here. So there's no direct mapping in here between the values we're actually categorizing our config items against and those categorizations we're using for these technical service mappings. So I was thinking, maybe is there potential for us to take these values here, this kind of two-tiered approach that we have in our technical stack or technical service layer, and actually mapping those values to the categorization values here. So then when this config item here is attached to the given change, we won't need to know which technical service it's against, because that'll already be known by the categorization of the actual config item, so it'd be mapped to it. So I say, hopefully that gives you some background information. So ultimately we want to know how to use the tool to its best capability to give us those clear views in the system. I say, hopefully this video will have helped kind of clarify some of those issues, but I no doubt it's probably created more questions. So if it has created questions, then feel free to give me a shout. Cheers.